Yeah, you're exactly right. Honestly, it is like, okay, so like if you have a friend that's on a high blood pressure medicine and you're thinking, okay, well, my blood pressure's high too, maybe I need to take that same medicine. That's not the way it works. And it's the same way with lasers. You need to let your provider know what your concerns are, what you're trying to accomplish, and then it's really up to the provider to decide which one is best for you. So you just have to determine based on what the patient needs and what their skin needs, and then you determine which laser that you have that best suits them. So it definitely is not a one size fits all.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top medical practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Misty Banknell of Misty Med Spa and Skin RX, who is a dermatology PA with over 25 years of experience. She now specializes in all things cosmetic dermatology related. Tox, filler, lasers for everything, chemical peels, and microneedling. But she still removes benign lesions for people, which most injectors don't know how to do. Her extensive experience in dermatology gives her much more knowledge of treating all skin conditions, working specifically with facial anatomy, skin health, along with seeing and understanding the aging process over all those years, which allows her to deliver results that are both natural and medically informed. So Misty, welcome and glad to have you here on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's dive into this first. How did you first get interested in the medical field?
Oh gosh. It was actually high school taking biology for the first time. And then it's like it just clicked. And then I went into human anatomy and physiology. And it just was, I mean, it was just so easy and it just came like secondhand knowledge. So I just loved it.
Okay. And so, was it dermatology specifically, or did you make that switch to dermatology kind of later on in your career?
No, later on. So actually, in the beginning, I was a surgical tech, and so I expected to be in surgery all the time. And they only had second shift jobs whenever I graduated, and I had a small son, so honestly, I couldn't take a second shift job at that time. And so I worked at a cosmetic counter
Oh,
in one of our malls at this, yeah, like at a Dillard's that had just opened. But we're talking about I'm 17, 18 years old, fresh out of school. And so one of the ladies came around and she said that her dermatologist was looking for a surgical tech. And I was like, okay, yeah, I would love that because I knew it was, first shift. Although I thought it would be boring, but I said, yeah, I'll absolutely take it. And I went over there and it was just amazing. There's just nothing like dermatology. You think that it might just be acne and warts and things like that, but it is so much more. It is just so much more extensive in the skin conditions and things that we would see. It's just amazing.
okay. And so that's kind of what got you into the aesthetics side of medicine then, was that experience.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
whenever I started, because it was 97
Mhm.
and Botox and filler was just starting back then. So we started doing it like right after that, after I started, we started doing
Mhm.
that.
Okay. And what led you to want to start your own practice? Why not just work for another practice?
Well, I did that for a while, and that's actually where I learned the cosmetic side of it was with my dermatology practice. But I just, you see so many patients whenever you're trying to see general dermatology. And then I would see, like I would have 4 slots at the end of the day for cosmetic dermatology, and you just don't have time for people.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's either one or the other. Either you have to see a bunch of patients or you need to do the cosmetic part of it and be able to, have time for your cosmetic patients. And then I moved to a different area. I'm from Middle Georgia, and so I moved up to the Atlanta area. And I just honestly couldn't find anywhere that really fit how I wanted to treat people. I love to do lasers myself. And I just like to be able to see, all of my patients at a decent time. I don't want to rush anybody. So that's kind of where it came from. I just wanted to be able to provide the service that I like to provide to people.
Okay. So diving deeper into your practice, I want to talk about some of the common treatments that your clients and your patients come to you for. I did kind of talk a little about in your introduction, you do a lot of different things. You do the tox, the fillers, the lasers, all that kind of stuff. But which ones would you say is the most common treatments that your clients come to you for?
Tox is always the most common for sure. It's number one. It's always the most common. But then here, our second most common, that would be lasers for sure.
Okay. So with the lasers, can you talk about that? Because I mean, when it comes to laser, there's a lot, from my understanding, there's a lot of different lasers for a lot of different types of things.
Yeah,
So almost any condition is a laser for it. So
absolutely.
how can people kind of determine which lasers that they need for whatever specific situation? And I'm sure even for a specific condition they have, there's many different lasers for that condition.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. Honestly, it is like, okay, so like if you have a friend that's on a high blood pressure medicine and you're thinking, okay, well, my blood pressure is high too. Maybe I need to take that same medicine. That's not the way it works. And it's the same way with lasers. You need to let your provider know what your concerns are, what you're trying to accomplish, and then it's really up to the provider to decide which one is best for you. So you just have to determine based on what the patient needs and what their skin needs, and then you determine which laser that you have that best suits them. So it definitely is not a one size fits all.
Okay. And specifically with your background in dermatology, could you explain a little bit more of how that makes your approach a bit different from other medical spas, other providers out there?
I think it's just honestly because I work with skin and that's what I've done for 25 years. So I know the face, I know facial anatomy, I know rashes, I know, infections, I know everything that there is to know about all of the skin, but especially with the head and neck. And so that just makes it, I think, a little bit more, um, you know, I don't want to say knowledgeable about aesthetics, but just knowing how the skin reacts and knowing how to fix any complication that could arise, because that is the organ that I've always worked with.
Okay. And so when it comes to the skin, what would you say is some of the things people really need to be aware of when it comes to skin, like mistakes that they're making, or things that they should really be focusing on that they're just not focusing on?
Um, Sometimes it's like both ends of the spectrum. Doing too much, like using all these different products all the time, and you're just changing stuff and you're using this and you're using that and you're not seeing results. Well, you're not seeing results because you're not being consistent. So in order for something to work, you need to be consistent. And so you just really need someone who can also guide you with that too. Instead of you choosing your own products for yourself, somebody with knowledge that can choose products for you. You be consistent. You give it that 3 to 6 months for your product to work. And then the other end of that is people who like won't even wash their face or won't wear sunscreen. The number one thing to me is wear sunscreen every single day. If you wear sunscreen every single day and you start early, you won't age as fast as most people do. So sunscreen to me is more important than like a retinol or a retin-A.
Interesting. Okay, so I've heard that where sunscreen is really important.
Mhm.
But let's say that I come to you and I say, "Hey, Misty, I'm an office worker. I'm indoors all day. My vitamin D is low. I need to take a supplement for vitamin D. I don't get out in the sun much except for maybe when I drive to the office in the morning and maybe when I drive home at night, assuming the sun hasn't already set. Do I still need sunscreen because I'm really not out in the sun? I'm not getting much direct sunlight. Do I still need sunscreen?"
Absolutely, because right now you're getting that blue light from the screen, so you're getting a different type of light or damage. But you also it depends on your drive. I mean, are you 5 minutes from work, and then you've got okay, so that's 10 minutes of being in and out in the sun. But a lot of people have a 30-minute commute, so you're talking about an hour of getting sun on your face, or on the side of your face. That's why too the left side of the face ages faster than the right side because that's your driving side. But you just have to think about, okay, maybe you're not in the sun and you work from home and you don't go out. Sunscreen has its own anti-aging properties to it. It has a lot of different antioxidants in it. So even if you don't feel like you're getting sun, you are still getting damage and you're still getting oxidative damage, and it just has those antioxidant properties to it that would help you no matter what.
Okay, so even if I'm not necessarily in direct sunlight, even just reflective sunlight can get to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And so obviously the face is the one that's exposed the most. So if I was kind of in the situation I explained to you, mostly office worker, maybe I have like a short to medium drive, I'm not really getting much direct sunlight. Should I really just focus on the face or should I also put it on my hands, my arms, or that's not as much of a focus because it's probably not getting as much direct sunlight as my face?
So face and neck for sure, because this is going to be when the sun is coming in to the windshield, you definitely have it coming here and then on the décolleté. So if you look at someone's skin, especially women, when you look at their skin, if you were to pull this over, this would be totally white and fresh and no freckles, not red, not pigmented. It would be nice and fresh. And then here is where you start to get redness. And
Mhm.
then you start to see all of this damage from here up. And so you definitely want to put it on the face, the neck, and the décolleté. But then I always take mine and rub it on the back of my hands. And then another trick that I do too, because the hands do show age and show sun damage a lot, you get brown spots on your hands as you get older. And so instead of holding your hands up here, I tell people to hold it at the bottom of the wheel.
Okay.
That way you don't get as much on there. But yeah, you
Okay.
absolutely do. You get the neck. If you protect your face and you don't protect your neck, that's aging, and you can see this big difference between the two if you don't protect both.
Okay. So no matter what, wear sunscreen, even if you're not in the sun much.
Yep. Sunscreen for sure.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Now, I think I wanted to ask you about was when it comes to the skin, tighter skin. If you have tighter skin or if you want to tighten the skin first, then it seems like you don't need as much filler or volume.
Yes.
So in that case, like how do you navigate that with your clients who come and say, "Hey, I want to get filler, I want to get some more volume," and say, "Hey, tighten the skin first." And they're probably thinking, "Tighten, I don't want it to be less, I want it to be more."
Right,
You
right.
explain a little bit more about that concept so people can understand a little bit easier.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm all about getting the skin in good health first
Mhm.
because you use less of those products whenever your skin is tighter. You don't need as much of that stuff. So I really have to discuss with them like, are you on a timeline? Do you have something important coming up to where you have to have this volume now, or do we have time to build this slowly, and do things more appropriately where it is? You do your lasers, you do your skin tightening, and then you can add volume back where it needs to if it's not, as much as you need for the skin to tighten in certain areas. So it just depends on timeline and if they've got enough time to wait for us to get their skin in order. And I mean, we're only talking like within 6 months here. So yeah, if they got enough time to wait to kind of get their skin to an appropriate place, then you can fill it where you need to fill it. And
Mm.
I say 6 months, it could be 6 months to a year. It really depends on, what device you're using, but like we've got one here that it can take up to 6 months to tighten the skin and it's amazing, but it's you gotta wait for it.
Yeah. Okay, so it seems like in the example that you're giving, there's a specific order of how you should prioritize your skin. In your case, you're talking about tightening it first and then putting in the volume or the filler.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, what is, I guess, the order of importance that people should focus on when it comes to their skin? Like kind of no matter what, focus on this first, then focus on this, then focus on this.
So definitely getting on good skincare, getting your routine down, because if you are going to start spending money on lasers and you're not doing good skincare, that's 80% of your homework. So that's what you're doing every single day, twice a day. But then say they come in here to see me, once every few months or something, or if we're starting out like once a month, it's going to take time to see that improvement. So they definitely need to be on their good skincare first, and then start on. Again, it depends on what kind of problem they have. So if we're just doing skin tightening and they don't have a lot of sun damage, then they don't have to have resurfacing lasers. But if they got sun damage and laxity, then we have to do both. And so we would have to, start erasing some of that sun damage, getting the brown spots off, decreasing wrinkles, and depending on which way we go with volume, you could do biostimulators, like Sculptra or a Hyperdilute Radiesse, and that takes time. So you could go ahead and start that too, because that would take 3 sessions at least to start building. If you're doing regular filler, you don't want to do any regular filler. I don't do filler, like I don't do laser on top of fillers because you worry about them melting. And so, like, I had to tell patients to wait at least 4 to 6 weeks before you get a laser if you've gotten filler. But if they're seeing me and we're putting it on a schedule, we do our lasers first and then we fill. And then if we need another laser, we can wait 6 weeks, do another laser, and do it that way more
Mm.
safely.
Okay. And I want to see a little bit more on the skincare, the first thing that you mentioned, like doing your own routine, your own skincare routine. There's so many products out there and so many voices out there as far as
Yeah.
to do this or this or this or this or this or this. Where would you say is a good place for people to start if they maybe have done a little bit of skincare, but it's just something that a habit they picked up, but they don't really know, are they using the best products? Are they really doing the right thing? where should people start when it comes to figuring out what skincare routine should they do on a regular basis?
Okay, so as far as a cleanser goes, unless you are young and oily, I'm all about as soon as you become more mature and you're trying to work on anti-aging, you want something that's more moisturizing, a moisturizing cleanser. And so I say get a gentle moisturizing cleanser. And then just a good moisturizer that even has peptides in it. So peptides are, good building blocks and good for anti-aging, and they don't irritate. So getting on a good peptide type moisturizer. And at nighttime, if you can tolerate it, then you could do a retinol. You could start out with a retinol that turns the skin cells over more fast. But like I can't tolerate retinol. I've never been able to use retinol, any of those products, but I've always used sunscreen. So like in the morning, you would do your gentle cleanser, peptide moisturizer, SPF, and then at nighttime, gentle cleanser, peptide moisturizer, and then a retinol if you can tolerate it. But if you can't do, and you need to start them slow. So like starting with 2 days a week, 2 nights a week. So do 2 nights a week for 2 weeks. And if you don't get irritated and you don't peel, then you can go up to 3 nights a week. And if you don't get irritated or peel, you just gradually move up. But if you can't do those things, there are other like lactic acid resurfacing and things that are more for, turning the skin cells over, but in a more gentle way, something like that.
And you said for the retinol, is that you go slowly, you build it up. So eventually, should they be getting to 7 days a week, or should they kind of do it more like 4 or 5 or
You
six?
can do a retinol 7 days a week. So the thing about retinol is that it's not the active drug. Retin-A or tretinoin, which is the prescription, that's active. So you get the medicine that you need right then. It's going to work. It's going to do what it needs to do right then. Retinol has to convert. So
Mm.
that's why it's made to be more gentle. It takes longer to work. So you could do that 7 nights a week with regular prescriptions, Retin-A, generic tretinoin. I'm okay with people only doing 2 or 3 nights a week of that because most people cannot tolerate that every single night.
Mm.
I don't like for people's skin to be constantly inflamed and constantly peeling. That is not a good state for your skin to be in. You don't want to be in that inflammatory state all the time.
Okay, good to know. Okay, now we talked a little bit about this, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into what are some of the common misconceptions people have about skincare. We talked a little bit about the sunscreen one. I think a lot of people have questions on that one. But what are some other common misconceptions that you hear the most about when it comes to skincare?
Get in on trends, buying on TikTok shop, and just whatever the next trend is and what somebody says.
Mhm.
You really have to go after the science. There's a lot of different products that they say are like good for you or smell good or whatever, but there's no science behind it. So you're just wasting money on things that are, you're just putting something that's going to sit on top of the skin,
Mhm.
not get into the skin cells and actually do you any good.
Mhm. Okay. So being more intentional about the products that you want to get for your skin and doing a little bit more research.
Yes, exactly. Companies that have been around that have studies that prove that their skincare works, not just something that like an influencer is saying, "Oh, I love this product. I use it and it worked good." It's like, okay, where'd that product come from? Where are
Mhm.
the studies to prove that it works? What is it doing to your skin? What are the ingredients? A lot of these things don't even have ingredients listed.
Mm.
So
Okay.
yeah, it makes you really wonder like what's in there.
Yeah. Okay. Now, without having to be a scientist, are there any ingredients that people should completely stay away from?
Not necessarily, not anything. So a lot of people are, they want to be more clean. They've taken parabens out of a lot of things now. Parabens can be allergens, but not for everybody. People can be allergic to anything. People can be allergic to plain Vaseline. I mean, it is possible. It happens. So you do want to go with a line that, you don't want like this huge list of ingredients that you can't understand or read any of the names except for maybe the top two. You don't want products like that. You want something that just that's more clean, that takes some of those, like takes formaldehyde out, takes some parabens out, things like that.
Okay, good to know. So, when it comes specifically to the treatments, what advice would you give to someone who is looking for a provider for to get some type of aesthetic treatment done, but isn't sure which provider to choose? Like, what advice would you give to that person as they do their search to find someone who's knowledgeable and who can get them the end result they're looking for?
I would say definitely look on their website, look at their credentials. And one thing that people don't usually do is that you look at their credentials, but then nobody knows to go honestly on the board to make sure that they are still licensed.
Yeah.
So I would say always look that person up to make sure that they're still licensed to practice medicine in your state, and make sure that they have the active license to work on people, and look at reviews and see what other people are saying. Try to see, what other people have said about them. And in the bio, does it give an example of their education? Does it give an example of their experience? And then I say a lot of them, like you can look and it doesn't even tell you who you're seeing. It doesn't tell you what providers are there, and that's a warning sign to me. If I'm looking at a website and I don't see who I'm going to see and what their credentials are, is it not important to the practice? Is it because the turnover's happening so fast that they have different people in there all the time? So those are warning signs to me. But just knowing the provider that you're seeing, the experience the provider has, and then call and ask. If you don't see what you're looking for, call and ask, what kind of experience does this provider have? How long have they been injecting? Those kind of things.
Okay. And is that an issue with providers not having active licenses? Is that something that,
Yes,
oh, wow.
it is
That's
huge,
scary. That is
huge.
scary.
Yeah, it is. It's very scary, very scary.
Wow. Okay. So, Misty, going deeper into how you approach your client care, your patient care, how important or what role do you believe creativity plays in your approach?
It's not necessarily even creativity, it's more like artistry than
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
You have to have a good eye. You have to be able to look at someone's face and see these little tiny things that might be, a little bit off on this side or a little bit off on that side, and think, okay, that needs to be a little bit more filler there than on this side. And so it is more of an artistic eye than anything, just trying to see how to balance someone, but still keep them natural, and just try to even them up a little bit
Mhm.
and just make things look maybe like they used to look 5 years ago.
Okay, so just trying to take several years off of
Yeah,
their visual age, I'll call it.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Misty, I'm sure that throughout your experience, you must have had some cases that really stand out in your mind. So there's maybe one story that you can share of maybe a tough case, a challenging case, or even just a memorable case, and how you were able to get them a successful outcome in the end.
So we had a patient that, so some people don't respond to any device you do to them. And that was this patient. We had done everything, and it was so ironic because her son worked for a laser company in another state,
Uh,
and he sent her here to have the laser that he worked for the company for. And she was trying to get ready for one of her sons, and I'm not sure if it was that one or not, but a wedding. So we did we did the skin tightening, we did the laser resurfacing, we started doing all this stuff. And it's like her skin was not moving. It was not moving, nothing was working. And so, and she needed a little bit of volume as well, which again, I like to try to do that volume a little bit closer to the important event, so that it doesn't, wear off and everything is fresh. And we ended up doing like what's called derma PRP, which is like a natural filler in her. We put a little bit of regular filler in her and then some of the derma throughout the rest of her face because she just needed a good bit of it. Using her own PRP made her skin look amazing. And that is what finally worked for her. And it looked great. And so it's like, okay, you needed some kind of more subdermal,
mm,
like activation.
yeah.
It was wild, but
Mhm.
yeah,
So part of it is just
finally found what worked for her.
trying to find the right key to the lock.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only a handful of people like that. But when you get somebody that they can have such a great result and they're just not responding to the treatments. And again, like I'm the one that's doing, some of the major treatments. So I know it's not provider error. If you've got different people that are doing the treatments, then you could say, okay, well, maybe they weren't aggressive enough. But if I was the one that did the treatment and I'm not getting the result, I know something's up.
Mm, okay. Now, Misty, where do you think the future of aesthetics is going?
Crazy. It is like the fastest growing thing that you could imagine. Every time you think that know what's like the next best thing or that you hear about this, and then there's something else tomorrow. So like whenever you get a device, that's really hard for us as providers and as business owners. When I get a device, I don't go by name brand. That's one thing that kind of like I'm different in that aspect. I don't know if it was wrong of me or right of me, but I go after science. And so I don't go after the most famous name brand equipment because I used to work at a laser studio and I worked with all of these things. And so I got to learn what works, what doesn't work. And it doesn't mean that the name brand works the best. It's the technology that you have to look at. So a lot of people, they might call and say, oh, do you have like a certain brand name, like do you have a hydrofacial or do you have a, this machine or whatever. And even if we didn't have something like that, we have something similar. But yeah, I just kind of go after the things that actually work. And that way it will stand the test of time because if it gets a bad rap, if something happens to that name brand, like one of the RF microneedling devices right now, it's not, in great favor with everybody. And it's because, it's caused some damage. But you don't go after a name brand, you go after what works, you go after the science and the technology, and you get the things that get results, but you can't jump on all these trends or you would end up with 20 machines, just sitting around and things that don't really work.
Mhm. Okay. So you have to be a little bit more cognizant of which ones that are it's gonna be a
Yeah,
better quality laser.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, for your practice, Misty, what is your vision for your practice?
So I don't want to grow big. I don't want anything like that. I was, just kind of, this is the second half of my life. I want to enjoy it.
Mhm.
I used to see, tons of patients per day in dermatology, and we would just like see a bunch of patients all day long. And so that is why I opened up here because I want to be able to take my time and
Mhm.
I want to see patients, on a decent amount of time, especially too, they're paying cash.
Mhm.
People that are paying cash, they want the time that they deserve. So that is what I want to give them. I want them to have a relaxing environment. I want them to come in here and have an experience like they are listened to and taken care of. And they know that we are going to learn their skin and we're going to always do what's best for them. So I
Okay.
just want to keep it simple and
Yep.
small and be able to provide the best service for them.
Sounds good. Well, Misty, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at mistymedspa.com.
Thank you.
Now, last question is, what does beauty mean to you?
Oh, so many things. I mean, whatever you want it to be. It is what it is. Everybody, like, I don't look at somebody and think that every single person needs all of this filler and things like that. That is where I'm a little bit different because I'm more about making their skin beautiful. I would rather see less sun damage and because, brown spots and wrinkles are a sign of sun damage. So I would rather see less sun damage, healthy skin, glowing skin, and I would rather see things like that. So those things are more beautiful when I can tell that someone is taking care of their skin.
Well, there you have it, Misty sharing your expertise. So, Misty, where can people contact you in your practice?
You said where?
Where? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can book online with us at the mistymedspa.com. Definitely follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and that is at Misty Med Spa as well. You can call, text us, any of all the avenues to contact us. So any of those things work for us. And then our phone number is 678-890-0577.
Awesome. Well, Misty, this was great. Thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing your message.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.